Hi, I'm John Zarella, president of Jay-Z Media and former CNN correspondent. I will be your guest host for the Strong Homes, Safe Families podcast, where we will help you prepare for disasters of all kinds. During this episode, we will do a deep dive into the MyRadar app, talk about how it's giving a voice to resilience. We'll also take a look at the future of weather media and technology. Let me introduce my guest, Mark Taylor, Head of Business Development and Strategic Partnerships at MyRadar and a fellow Flash board member. Mark, it's great talking with you.
Yeah, great to talk to you too, John. Great to talk to you.
You know, before we dive in, can you talk about your background, your education, and, you know, the decades of experience you have in weather media and technology?
I know decades. I'm feeling a little old at this point, John. It's say the least.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, it's. I'm one of those kids, one of those people who always had an interest in weather since I can remember. You know, even as a young kid, my friends were asking for army men for Christmas, and I was asking for a barometer or an anemometer. I'm not sure why. I grew up in Buffalo. I guess maybe it was the lake effect snow, but I always had an interest in it. Went to school, small school in Western Pennsylvania called Grove City College for engineering. Everybody said be an engineer. But I always continued to have an interest in weather. It was always my passion. And luckily, just fortuitously, got a call one day in the early 90s from someone in Boston looking for somebody to work in the television and weather business. Something I've always wanted to do, and jumped at the chance and have been doing it ever since, probably close to 30 years right now, and I've loved every minute of it. So I feel very fortunate.
So that was right in your wheelhouse, huh? Getting that opportunity.
Yeah, actually, it's a true story. It was a woman called me, Sharon Loban, I'll never forget it, and I actually hung up on her because I thought it was one of my college friends pranking me. We did that to each other often, and luckily for me, she called me back. It's a true story, and I think I'm not sure where my life would be today had you not called me back. I thought it was a joke because my friends always said, "Why don't you go into weather? What are you doing?" And true story. So I'm thankful to this day for that.
Well, and you've got a particular interest in innovation with a number of accomplishments that broke new ground. Expand upon that for us.
Yeah, I guess I've always been interested in gadgets and new things, and the weather and space has been a great place for that, between the marriage of technology and the ongoing challenge, right, to get weather forecasts right, and just the evolution in data and information and satellites. It's been quite a run the past couple of decades, and so I've been fortunate enough to be in situations where I've had the resources and teams, quite frankly, people a lot smarter than me, to help kind of take my crazy vision and make it into a real product. I've had the easy part. And a couple of the big things were, probably it was 2006. We built the very first interactive weather map with real-time weather data. If you think about it, interactive maps that we take for granted today, whether it's Google Maps or even Waze, weren't a common thing even until like 2005 to 2010. So working with some folks, we kind of came up with an idea to build a hurricane tracker. And that was because we'd done some research. I was doing some work for Fox Interactive. And one of the big issues back then, you probably remember this, John, people couldn't read a map. The people looked at a map and you said, "Where do you live?" And, well, it was incredible. So we said, hey, we need to build something which simply shows, that puts a star on a map that shows where you live. That way, if a hurricane warning comes out or the hurricane cone of uncertainty comes out, you can actually tell whether you're in or out of it. And that was a really big deal, had never been done before. And then the other thing is probably the second thing was, I guess it was around 2010, 11, there was a real issue with warnings. The National Weather Service had made some real advancements in precision with what they call polygon alerts, tornado warnings, for thunderstorm warnings. But most everybody was still delivering warnings as county-based alerts. So in a sense, if a tornado warning got issued, in a county that you're in that was 30 miles away, you got the warning, and consequently it caused a cry wolf situation where basically people were unplugging weather radios, they were ignoring alerts. So at that time, smartphones were coming on, and we made the decision we were going to try and see if we could turn your smartphone into a weather radio using GPS and all the advances in smartphones. And that was a real breakthrough because it really allowed people to pay attention, get warnings, and now it's become the standard really today. And I think consequently saved a lot of lives that we're very proud of.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you ought to be proud of that without question. Before we dive into the app, one other thing, as I mentioned at the top, you serve on the Flash board of directors. Tell us why you volunteer for this position and how your involvement has, kind of fueled your passion for resilience.
Yeah, sure. Really got introduced to the organization via Leslie. As part of building a white label version of our weather radio app for Flash. And I got to say, initially it was Leslie. She's a powerhouse, as you know, John. She's so passionate and dedicated, and so that really got me interested. And then once joining the board as a volunteer, it's been a slam dunk. I can't think of a better group of individuals every time we get together, as you know. Dedicated, focused, just a great group of people that are really focused on such a great mission as it relates to resilience and information, and just the passion and dedication is something that has really fueled me. I didn't know much about resilience, and now more than ever, right? It's so critical with everything going on with climate and building codes and all the things we deal with. There just isn't a more important time for the work that the Flash organization does. So I'm very, very proud to contribute a small part in any way that I can.
Well, let's dive into the app and the MyRadar mission. The app has over 52 million downloads. How did the app get started? And did the originators feel as if there was a gap within the weather app industry?
I think initially, Andy Green, who's the founder and CEO, who's just an amazing, innovative guy. He'll tell you he built one of the first internet ISPs, and he used to spend a lot of time hanging out at Radio Shack back in his young days. He just was brilliant, innovative, and Andy, in some ways, like he'll tell you, in some ways it happened, in some ways by accident, some ways by early moving, and then a lot of it by his vision. He had actually built a flight tracking app, and of course, at some point realized, hey, tracking flights, weather has an impact. We should add radar to it. And that's how it got started. And Andy was, with his MyRadar app, was one of the very first weather apps for smartphone applications. So he got a good jump. But, like I always say, that isn't what keeps it there, right? I mean, there's constantly people, there's who knows how many weather apps are out there. And MyRadar consistently is always one of the top apps. And I think it's because it's just so well built. I mean, Andy's very focused on, if he does something, he does it the best way possible. The alerts are the fastest possible. It loads right to a super fast radar. People want to check their radar. They're doing an amazing work with rain alerts. They really pioneered the whole rain alert technology. And then there's some fun thrown in there as well, as far as like being able to track satellites and space debris and other things like that. So it's kind of a neat app, and it's people just really like it. It's really useful. It's really laid out well. The user interface is really well thought out, and hats off to Andy Green. He's a passionate animal about his app, about making sure it's always as good as it can be. He's extremely passionate about it.
Yeah, I can tell you, when I've been out covering hurricanes here and there, people will always say, MyRadar? Oh, wow, I have MyRadar. I have a friend in Spain who got in touch with me and said, MyRadar, I love that app. You just hear it all the time. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you have the app, and Andy's passionate about it. You're passionate about all that. So is there a focused mission, and what makes it so unique with the loyal users? Is it just because it's the data is so good and so pointed?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think for sure. I mean, Andy's got a very focused mission. As far as the app's always, the best that it can be. If he does something, he does it the best that it can be. But Andy's also very passionate about, things like the environment and climate, and at times including that within the app. He's really expanded the video component of the app, as you know.
Yes.
There's many flash videos in the app, both in English and Spanish. He does a lot, going out and covering the environment, the climate, things that are going on. It's a mission for Andy. I think the app is great for him, also a great conduit to educate and let people know what's going on and what's important in our world today. And I think that synergy really resonates with people. There's a lot of weather apps, like I said before, but I think the MyRadar app shows that they're going a lot deeper than just, at the surface, just telling you a time and a temp and maybe a forecast for today. There's a lot more there than just what's on the surface.
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably hit the nail on the head there, because with that app, the video platform is spectacular. You don't need to go there just for weather. Yes, that's the primary focus, clearly. But if you want to know something about space, upcoming missions,
Right.
things that are going on in that environment as well, or climate, you can find it all on the app.
Yes, absolutely.
What are some of the other features that maybe I just answered my own question, specifically help users understand weather warnings?
Yeah, I think it's a combination, like we talked about earlier. I mean, they're obsessed with making sure that when warnings go out, they get there the fastest way possible, right? Particularly when you talk about things like tornado warning, speed. Speed is of utter importance. It's saving lives, getting the information to people to take cover. We see it time and time again, and I think as it relates to that, hurricanes, making sure all the information is made available to folks that need it most at your location in a timely and easy to understand fashion. Look, I think there's so much information out there. People get inundated, right, with information. They get confused. And I think, our mission is to provide information that matters to you where you are in an extremely timely manner, so you can make decisions, sometimes life and death decisions. And then on top of that, like with the video components, the ongoing messaging to say, hey, educating people. What does this mean? What is even things like, what does a tornado warning mean? What's the difference between a tornado warning and tornado watch? Things along those lines. I think it's a great educational platform to continue to educate people as it relates to, information that's being sent out.
I want to pick up real quick on what you just said, too, about all the information that's out there. Do you have to guard against or worry about too many voices? Back in the day, everybody got their information from NOAA or from the National Hurricane Center. And for the most part, still do get
right.
A lot of it there. But, as this explosion of technology has made it far less expensive to put up your own satellites, to do all your own things. Is there a concern over that people people can get confused with too much information?
I think clearly, people talk about big data and this and that and this and that. And I think that's a huge issue, right, between social media and everything else going on. I think people are just inundated with information. And then, of course, it's about trusted source. I think that's a huge problem. Every week I'll get a message from somebody, at least one, saying, hey, I saw this. Well, where'd you see it? Either it was a post on Facebook, some social media platform
right.
that came from who knows where, right? And you've seen it. Someone will post a photo. There's a photo that goes around every year, which is a wall cloud that's supposedly some hurricane making landfall.
Yeah.
And it just, next thing, a million people have said, oh, did you just see that thing? And I think it really goes, and this is part of Flash's mission, which I love. It's about a trusted source. People need to know that they go from critical information, that it's a trusted source, that this is real. It's not somebody hacking something around or something made up. And I think it synergizes well with MyRadar. That's what we're all about. It's like, look, if you get an alert, you better pay attention, right? Or if you want information or educational information, we're going to make sure it's accurate versus, hoping to get it from someplace else,
right,
or getting a rumor. So I think it's a real challenge going forward, because, look, there's more and more data out there, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's in a form that people can understand or gets to the people when the time that they need it. So
you mentioned the videos, the Flash videos in English and Spanish that are on the app. Talk about some examples of how the app promotes resilience and strong building practices.
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing effort. I think we've got earthquake alerts in there. We talk about fire weather. There's all the perils that we talk about at Flash. And I think with the MyRadar folks, we're trying to cover all those bases, because, it's not just hurricanes, right? There's all kinds of perils that can really benefit from improved resilience and building practices. And, the MyRadar team views this as a long-term relationship, where as Flash continues to evolve, and our current projects to really promote building codes, and we do more things like that, we will continue to make videos and continue to promote through all our media, not just the app, but through all our social media platforms. And we're planning to do some other things in the upcoming year. We plan to be lockstep with Flash in every way as we evolve with this.
And clearly extreme weather is not going away. If anything, with the climate crisis, it's getting worse. There's going to be more extreme weather, that whether it's wildfires or hurricanes or massive snow, whatever. It's probably even all the more critical to continue to promote resilience and work towards strong building codes and enhanced resilience.
Absolutely. And I think, education, right, John? It's, promoting it in a way that's easy to consume, easy to digest. Yeah, that's what I love about what we're doing at Flash. It's about getting basic information and, to guys like you and I, right? I mean, just simple things, little things that you can do that can really help, like building codes. How can you further improve the resilience and safety of just your home by doing a few basic things? Most people don't know that. We don't even know what their building code are. And Flash is just taking that to the next level. We're just doing some simple things could really, really make a difference. And that's very exciting.
Okay, let's take a few minutes to talk about new tech. Well, I can't, but you can geek out a bit. So, tell us about any research, exciting things MyRadar is doing to improve, and you've already touched on it, improve weather forecasting, things that MyRadar is investing in for the future.
There's a lot going on. I think just from MyRadar specific standpoint, the Andy is very, very focused on building his own satellites. I know, John, you've talked with him about that, but I think the whole world of space has really opened up. Incredible, right? Since you started covering space with CNN, it's incredible now with the privatization and CubeSats and pocket CubeSats, and it goes on and on. So it's exciting because entrepreneurial companies now have the ability and the financial wherewithal to actually build satellites that are very sophisticated, get them into orbit, and really innovate and do things that haven't been done before, and clearly gives them the ability to try different things, innovate, to actually create new products, et cetera, and bring them to market very, very quickly. Whereas in the past, pretty much you had to rely on what was given to you. Typically, it was from the government, which was great, through NOAA and the Family Services. Well, now you can augment that with very, very specific products that you deem important or that are necessary, and create those and actually use those yourself. So that's pretty cool. That's very exciting. I'm becoming much better educated at satellite technology quickly here. And the other two things they're doing a lot with nowcasting, really doing more with modeling, really improving the nowcasting. Dr. Sarvesh Garamello, who's the chief scientist, is brilliant and a pioneer in this area. So being able to further improve short-term forecasting is really critical. And then the third thing is probably road weather. Big area, up until now, there's forecasting and understanding what's going on roads, transportation, whether it's for personal use or for moving of goods and services. It's improved, but it really hasn't made a huge leap. There's cameras and traffic cameras, right? And you'll get some reports of snow-covered roads or slick roads, but massive changes coming in the next 12 months. I think you're going to see some game-changing things similar to perhaps when Waze came out, for example. You're going to see with the advancement in telematics and modeling and some other technologies that are evolving, you're going to see some really great things coming from the MyRadar folks on that platform in the next 12 months.
That would be huge breakthroughs because, like you say, whether it's for personal use or even just as important, if not more so, for transportation of goods and services, truckers would probably, the trucking industry would really, really benefit from that.
Absolutely. The economic impacts from weather in the trucking industry, I've seen several reports, and the numbers are just, I was shocked. I knew they were big, but I didn't know there were that many zeros in there between fuel burn and delays and lost product and everything. It's unbelievable, even if you can move the needle a small percentage. And of course, that doesn't even take into account the safety factor, right? How many people lose their lives or are seriously injured because of accidents every year on the roads? If you can move the needle even a small percentage there, it's a really big deal. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, in fact, just to take it a step further, it wasn't that long ago, there was a huge snowstorm that went through, I don't remember the Northeast or what. And I mean, some of the concern was that they had thought that it might have impacted some of the shipment of the COVID vaccines. It's
Yes.
There's nothing more important right now than that, and the weather can even impact that.
Yep, absolutely.
So looking forward, you did mention some of the goals MyRadar has for 2021 that you can share with our listeners.
I think that kind of summarized it. I think it's to continue to evolve the application and the company and the platform as it relates to just continuing the mission, as it will, to communicate to people who need to know information, make it easy as possible, be a trusted source, be a conduit for other partners like Flash that are doing great work and doing trusted information that's really valuable to consumers and users and anybody out there. I think that fits the mission going forward. And I think you'll see more of that as well in 2021. There's some other really innovative companies out there that are doing some great things, that are providing information and platforms that really matter to people. And I think the goal is to continue to collaborate with folks like that. So you'll see more of that this year as well, I think.
One thing I wanted to make sure we touched on, I mentioned at the very top that I had a friend in Spain who thinks the app is outstanding. This app is not just for folks in the U.S., right? I mean, this is a worldwide application.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it's the majority of the users certainly are in the United States, and that's just because of the way we provide data, and our radar data here is so good. It's just it's different here. However, you're seeing things expand. We're adding Australian radar. We got radar from Japan. You're going to see other data sources coming online, and as we continue to expand the modeling, in a lot of places in the world, there's a real dearth of weather information. I mean, it's a real problem. So being able to help other locations around the world, even with basic information, is really a big deal. We take it for granted here, but John, as you know, other parts of the world, holy cow, they don't have much of anything. So I think it's a real noble mission and something. Looking down the road, we want to continue to expand on for sure.
Yeah, there's plenty of places in the world where, like when the great hurricane in 1900 hit Galveston, they didn't know until it hit.
Right.
There's plenty in the world today where that's pretty much the case still.
Yeah, sadly so, right? Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Reflecting on what you've learned during your career in weather, apps, news media, the call from your friend who you thought was a prank, what message or even challenge do you want to leave our listeners today?
I think for those innovators out there and those folks that want to make a difference, is go for it. Innovate. I've been told many times throughout my career that can't be done. But look, this is an important mission, climate, weather. It has a direct impact on people. So I think, look, it's about continuing the fight, continuing the effort, continue to go for it. And I think it's a great way to have a great impact on the current lives of people and our future. And I think, it's a real challenge, like we mentioned before, over communication, too much information. And at the end of the day, we can create all this great information, videos, data, we can launch 1,000 satellites. But if we can't find a way to get it to the people when they need it most in a way that they can actually take action on, then it all doesn't matter. So I think, figuring out innovating and figuring out that last mile, right, and getting it into the hands of people on a consistent basis, I think is going to continue to make a difference. So I'd say, continue to work at it. That's the challenge. Keep going for it, keep innovating, and I think we'll see great results.
And it has to be in a way that the folks out there can easily digest it, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, you know this, John. It's incredible how advanced technology advances, but how quickly things can break down, particularly like after a hurricane, right after a disaster. There's no communication. No one knows what's going on. Trying to get them the right information. What do you do, right? Where do you go? So I think there's challenges left, and I think there's really smart people and passionate people out there that are really working on these things. And I think you're going to see. I mean, I'm blessed to be able to work with people like that. So you're going to see some really great things in the next couple of years that are really going to move the needle on all those fronts.
Well, we're going to leave it right there, Mark. And I can't thank you enough, my friend, for joining us. It has been a great pleasure speaking with you, incredibly insightful. And I sure can't wait to see some of the things coming down the road from MyRadar in particular.
Yeah, thank you, John. Always great to talk to you, buddy. And I appreciate it. Great to talk, and I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. And thank you all for listening to this week's episode of Strong Homes, Safe Families. You can email us at info at flash.org or call us toll free at 877-221-SAFE. That's 7233. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, share, and provide a review on iTunes. Until next time, I'm John Zarella. Thanks for joining us.